Alright, Arcbound Condor, 2 generic and the 2 black artifact creature bird, flying modular 3. This creature enters the battlefield with 3 +1/+1 counters on it. When it dies, you may put its +1/+1 counters on target artifact creature. Whenever another artifact enters the battlefield under your control, target creature and opponent control gets -1/-1 until end of turn. So black red has like affinity with artifacts as one of its themes, and this is one of the cards that works with it. And this card also works with the Abzan module or not sorry, modified synergies because it's a modified creature. It has 1/1 counters on it. It can also throw the 1/1 counters on artifact. Um, I'm not sure how good like the second part is going to play out. I guess it depends on how many artifacts you can generate in a turn. Like if you could generate like 2 or 3 artifacts in one turn, this could actually start killing like real creatures with it. Or you could like play it after combat, I guess, and then play another artifact and finish off one of your opponent's creatures that has like a lot of damage on it. So there's like potential with this card, but I don't know. I would say it's like a C plus, B minus, like B minus if you're actually just spawning a lot of artifacts with it. Alright, I think this is okay. Breathe your last 1 and 2 black instant. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. You gain 1 life for each of the colors. This is definitely going to be like the best black common because it's like it's just basically Hero's Downfall with upside. Yeah, so it's like Hero's Downfall, gain a life, maybe gain 2 life, maybe gain 3 if it's a triple color rare or something, but you know, it's gonna be good. I had it as a B. Alright, Chthonian Nightmare, 1 in a black enchantment. When Chthonian Nightmare enters the battlefield, you get 3 energy counters. AX energy, sacrifice a creature, return Chthonian Nightmare to its owner's hand. Return target creature card with mana value X from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate only the source. So this is like a twist on Recurring Nightmare, but it's so I think the dream scenario is that you're playing like Eldrazi spawn to like sack them, but you also need to have energy to like get good things back. So like there are some like this is cool with like the cycling creatures if you can figure out a way to like generate a lot of energy. But I think most of the energy generators are actually in Jeskai, so you'll have to like kind of work hard to like get a lot of energy because you want to like bring back like a 7 mana cycler with you'll have to get 4 more energy from somewhere else. So I had it rated as like a D for now because it just seems like worse than Victimize, which is also in this set as like a new to modern card. But I don't know. It might be like there might be like some combo that I'm missing. Consuming Corruption, 2 black, instant. Consuming Corruption deals X damage with target creature planeswalker, and you gain X life, where X is the number of slot. So this is just like a juiced up version of Tendrils of Corruption. It can hit planeswalkers, and it only costs 2 mana instead of 4. So it's actually pretty juiced or whatever. I had it written down as a B. Cause it's just like it's gonna kill like there will be like some creatures that are bigger than this, like if you don't have like a lot of swamps, but I think um like I could definitely see this hitting like 4 or 5 damage, like depending on like it just depends on how many swamps you're playing. Like right, Crabomination, 4 and 2 black creature crab demon emerge from artifact. 5 generic and 2 black. When Crabomination enters the battlefield, target opponent exiles the top card of library, a card at random in the graveyard, and a card at random. And you may cast a spell from among the cards exiled this way while paying its mana cost. This has like a huge ceiling depending on like what you hit with it. Like if you actually play it like and it's not even that unreasonable just to just play it as a 6 mana 5/5, but you could play this even earlier because of the emerge. It does say emerge from artifacts, so you have to sack an artifact to it, not just like any creature or whatever. But yeah, you could definitely high roll on this. Like if you hit like their 7-drop from one of the cards that got exiled, it's gonna be bonkers. But so I had it as like an A minus. Maybe that's a little high because like, but I feel like this is definitely gonna cause like some arena rage. Right, creation of Avacyn, 1 and 2 black, enchantment saga. 1, search your library for a card, exile, face down, and shuffle. 2, turn the exile card face up. If it's a creature card, you lose life equals the mana value. 3, you may put the exiled card onto the battlefield if it's a card. If you don't put it on the battlefield, put it on. So it's a tutor. They don't know what you tutored for until like chapter 2. Um, it does let you put the card onto the battlefield if it's a creature, and you get to chapter 3. Like if it wasn't a creature, you just go. It just goes into your hand. That's a little bit annoying because again, they know now they know like what card you put in your hands. So it's like either really slow tutor for like a non-creature, or if it's like a tutor, it's a slow tutor and put into play if it's a creature. The risk here is like they could let you pay, like they could make you lose the life. They could let chapter 2 resolve, make you lose the life, and then use like an enchantment destruction, and then you won't actually get to put the creature card onto the battlefield. So it's actually kind of risky in that regard. Like if you think like enchantment removal is like really good, like basically all they need to do is like wait until like chapter 2 and then just destroy the enchantment. And you don't get the card that happens. So that's why I had it rated as like a C potentially. I don't know. Like it just depends on how like often people are like going to main deck like their enchantment removal or whatever, because that could be a really big blowout potentially. But anyway, Dreadmobile, 2 and a black artifact vehicle menace. 1 generic sacrifice another artifact or creature, put a +1/+1 counter on Dreadmobile, crew 1. I think the German translation of this is like Shrekmobile or something like that, and everybody was like memeing for like a couple of days about it. But I don't. I guess this is like supposed to combo of like Eldrazi spawn because those are like creatures where you would be fine with just like sacrificing them. But again, I don't know how excited. Like I think they've had like this type of card before, and it usually just like underperforms. Like I think like the troll or whatever from like Strixhaven. I guess that was sorcery speed. Also heard it. So I had this as like a C, but Dream Drinker Vampire, 1 generic and the black. Creature Vampire Lifelink, 1 generic and a black. Adapt 1. If this creature has no +1/+1 counter, I'll put a +1/+1 counter on it. Whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put in the Dream Drinker Vampire, it gains menace until end turn. Uh, I just had it as a C. I mean, it's probably more. I mean, yes, lifelink is good with the counter. It will get like menace. I think the issue is that yeah, it does start with like a 1 butt. It's like okay, I'm going to invest 2 mana into adapting it. It's a 3/2 menace lifelink for turn. I mean, there could be like some really swingy games where this actually does like swing a couple times with menace, and then yeah, maybe you're gonna be really far ahead. But it, I don't know. It's just mostly like the 2/1. Like even if it becomes like a 3/2, if you don't put another counter on it, it's just a 3/2 lifelink. It's gonna trade with like their 2/2 until you have like other ways of putting counters on it. I don't know. I think it could be really bonkers if you just have like ways of other ways of putting counters on it. Or I guess if you put like the flying equipment on it, okay, maybe that's why the flying equipment costs 4. Alright, Dross Claw, one generic and a black artifact equipment, living weapon. I think we talked about living weapon already, but it just makes a 0/0 black Pyrexian germ creature token, and then you attach the equipment to it. So it's a 2 mana 1/1 that whenever it attacks, each opponent loses 1 life, and then you can pay 2 mana once like the creature die. I don't know. I don't like this. I think it's just really understated for like what it does. Like I'm just gonna say it's like a D plus. Maybe you just play it because you need the artifact for like affinity. Maybe if you have like a bunch of evasive creatures, it gets better. But I just don't like the stat line on this. Alright, Emperor Bones, one generic and a black creature skeleton noble. At the beginning of combat on your turn, exile up to one target card from a graveyard. One generic and a black. Adapt to. Whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are put on Emperor Bones, put a creature card exile with Emperor Bones onto the battlefield under control with a finality counter on it. It gains haste, sacrifice at the end of the beginning of next end step. So now you understand why a lot of those Eldrazi have like cast triggers and not ETB triggers. But I can imagine like if your opponent like cycles an Eldrazi and then you play an Emperor Bones and exile their Eldrazi, and then you adapt your Emperor Bones, and then you put that Eldrazi into play, and you smack them for like 6 or 7 damage. Like that's going to be pretty swingy. So I had this as like a B plus. I don't know. It just depends. Again, it depends on how many. Like I think just one. If that's like the dream scenario, obviously there could be like a lot of scenarios where it's not nearly as broken. But I mean, it is like adapt to, so it's just like it's gonna like even if you just play it as like a 2/2 on 2 and then you make it a 4/4 on 3. It's not even like worse. Alright, Edge Sliff, one in the black, artifact creature Pyrexian Slip Menace. Whenever Edge Sliff deals combat damage to a player, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. When you do, you may remove a counter from another target permanent or opponent. So this is like you can hate on your opponent's like +1/+1 counters or ability counters or their energy if you can actually deal damage with it. It has menace, which helps a little bit. So like I think the theory is that if you are buffing this with a bunch of counters or using removal with this, like you can not only make this bigger, but you can make your opponent's creature smaller. So I don't know. I put it down as like a C, but I think that's assuming you put in the work to be able to like hit with it multiple times or at least once, or making it grow. Um, Ethereum Terramander, black artifact creature, salamander drake, flying. Ethereum Terramander can block only creatures with flying, and there's like 6 generic black adapt 4. This ability costs 1 less activate for each other artifact control. So this is like the payoff for you playing all those like living weapons and stuff and other artifact creatures. Um the fact that it can only block other creatures with flying is obviously a downside. I mean, like depending on how easy it is to like get a bunch of other artifacts into play. I mean, this could be like attacking as like a 5/5 on like turn 5, I guess. Like, I guess it depends on like how many other artifacts you're viewing out or whatever. Then that's pretty decent, but I don't know. Again I would have it as like a C, maybe a C plus, depending on like how deep into affinity you've gone. Alright, Eviscerator's Insight, one generic in the black instant. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice an artifact or creature, draw 2 cards. Flashback, 4 in the black. So this is basically like Altar's Reap. It can sack a non-creature artifact, which might come up sometimes. Like if you want to sack like a living weapon equipment that you don't care about anymore, you can sack it. Like I think it's maybe more interesting because of the flashback, because you can like discard this card or have it get milled, and then it gives you a little bit of value. But I don't know, 2 mana on like these types of sack spells makes them a lot worse. Usually, I understand like the flashback costs 5, but then the theory there is like, oh, you're technically not using a card if you paid the flashback cost. But I don't know. I'm not like very high on this card. I think I had it as like a C minus. Fetid Gargantua, 4 and a black creature horror, 2 and a black adapt to. Whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are put on Fetid Gargantua, you may draw 2 cards. If you do, lose 2 life. It's 4/4. This is like um Phyrexian Gargantua, like Phyrexian Gargantua with a 6 mana 4/4 that like enter the battlefield and you draw 2 cards and lose 2 life. This will probably end up playing out like worse than it looks, just because technically the opponent could remove this in response to you adapting, and then you wouldn't get the cards. So maybe it's like a C. Like the stat line by itself is not very appealing because it's 5 mana 4/4. But the theory is that it's 5 mana 4/4. Then next turn you get to adapt and then draw 2 and then add 2 counters to this. I don't know. Player of Malice, 2 generic, 2 black, instant. You may sacrifice a non-token black creature rather than pay the spell's mana cost. Each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker with the greatest mana value among creatures or planeswalkers they can. Edicts that Edicts are usually not very good, but the fact that I guess it says that they have to sack something among the greatest mana value can be better. So it means they can't just sack like their 1 drop or 2 drop. But sometimes you actually sometimes they have 2 things with the same mana value, or sometimes you actually want them to sack. You actually want to destroy their cheaper creature because like it has like a really good ability. But I don't know. I think I had this rated as like a C, but it could be like lower because again, Gravedigg 1 in the black sorcery. Choose one target creature creates a 2/2 black zombie creature token, and then return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Twine 2. Choose both if you pay the entwine cost. I had this rated as a C plus. Like neither of the modes are like very appealing, but like the reason I rated it that high is because there's probably going to be times like you're actually fine with like either mode, right? Like depending on like your curve. Like on turn 2, this is just a 2/2. Fine with that. You're probably fine with that, you know. Like late game, you'll pay both, but there might be like a scenario late game even where you only pay for the return target creature because you want to play the creature you got back that turn. Like maybe it's like does like it's threatening lethal if you get the creature. Like if you just pay 2 for the Gravedigg and then play the creature from the graveyard back to the back on the battlefield. But it's flexibility. It's not like I don't think like either of the modes are really that great at this point. Like Gravedigger is kind of like gotten power creeped. So I had a C plus. So Grim Servant 3 and a black creature zombie warlock menace. When Grim Servant enters the battlefield, search your library for a card with mana value less than equal to your devotion to black. Reveal it, put it in your hand, and then shuffle. You lose play. So like worst case scenario, if you don't have like any 1 drops if this is your only black symbol and you don't have any 1 drops, this is basically search your library for land and reveal it. Like it's not horrible. It's just like I mean, it's not horrible. Like because there's like a dream scenario where you have like a bunch of devotion and then you get to like tutor something really cool. Like maybe you have 3 black devotion and you get to tutor up like your removal spell, then it gets better. So I don't know. I think I had it as like a B minus. Like it just depends on how much you can like really what you can really do with the two like what you can really do with like your devotion. So all right, Kami of Jealous Thirst, 2 and a black creature spirit death touch. 4 and the black. Each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. This ability costs 4 and the black less to activate if you draw on 3 or more cards this turn. Activate only once each turn, so you can't like spam it or whatever. I mean, this is like kind of potentially powerful. Like if you are deep into like the draw 3 or more ability, I guess that's what makes that Eviscerator's Insight card good, because you could like play Eviscerator's Insight on your turn to trigger this. But I don't know, like a 1/3 Death Touch is not very exciting. I guess like the ability is like even if you're not doing the draw 3 or more cards thing, you could just, drain them like when it's late game. You wouldn't be able to like activate it more than once because it literally says you can only activate it once per turn, but I don't know, I just had like a C minus because I don't know, like a 3 mana 1/3 not like very exciting, even though yeah, there's Death Touch, but still. Alright, Lethal Throwdown, black sorcery. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a creature or sacrifice a modified creature. Destroy target creature planeswalker. If the modified creature was sacrificed, draw a card. It's Bone Splinters. Sometimes you draw a card if you sack a modified creature. Note that it says auras you control, so like sacrificing a creature that has your opponent's dog umbra on it doesn't count as a modified. I mean, there might be like some situations where yeah, you just have like some germ token that you like cool with sacrificing it because germ tokens count as modified. And then it gets better, but I don't know. Bone Splinters isn't like super exciting, so I just put it down to the C. Right, Marionette, Apprentice, 1, and the black creature, human, artificer. Fabricate 1. When this creature enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on it, or create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature. Whenever another creature or artifact you control put into the graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent loses like 1 life. So this is like, it works with like the modified stuff, and also works with affinity because it could make an artifact or it could be modified. It's not quite, Marionette Master. It's probably really good with like Eldrazi Spawn, but again, Eldrazi Spawn is more gamer thing. But I'll put it down as like a C plus, just because I think like the damage from this could add up. Right, Mindless Conscription, 2 generic and a black enchantment. When Mindless Conscription enters the battlefield, and whenever you draw your 3rd card each turn, amass zombies 3. I don't think this card looks very good to me. Like I put it, I don't know. It depends on how deep you go on like the draw 3. Um, Also something to know about this set is that there are like auras that actually like, well, Dog Umbra is probably like the worst case scenario for this card, because if they Dog Umbra your army, then like you can't really like, this card doesn't do anything anymore because you counters on like army that can't attack or block. I guess why you sacrifice spells, but I'm kind of like low on it. I don't know. Like maybe it's like a D plus. Really, like it could be like better. Like if you are really deep on like the draw 3. Like it does make a 3/3 when it ETBs, but I don't know. It's just like a 3 mana make a 3/3. Very exciting. It does count as a modified creature, though. I guess that's cool. Alright, Necro Dominance, 3 black, legendary enchantment, skip your draw step. At the beginning of your end step, you may pay any amount of life if you do draw that many cards. Maximum hand size is 5. The card or token will be put into your graveyard from anywhere, exile instead. I mean, my experience of like Necropotence. Well, I actually never played Necropotence in like Wilds of Eldraine, but I saw plenty of people play it, and I was just like never like very excited about seeing it. And honestly, I actually think this card's like worse in this format than Necropotence was in like Wilds of Eldraine, because in Wilds of Eldraine there was bargain. You could like draw a bunch of cards with necropotence and then sacrifice your necropotence to like a bargain card. There's nothing like that in this set, so it's like um I don't know. I don't really like it. I put it down as a D plus, but maybe someone will come in here and say it's amazing and play it. Nethergoyf. One black creature, Lurgoyf. Nethergoyf's power is equal to the number of card types among cards in your graveyard, and its toughness equal to that number. Escape two generic and a black. Exile any number of cards. Any number of other cards from your graveyard with four or more card types among them. I just wrote it on a C. Yeah, it does have recursion. The recursion, you're going to like need like you need to have like a wide number of like card types to like recur it, and then because you're exiling a bunch of cards with different card types in your library, there's a high chance that when it comes back, it's going to be really small. But I don't know. I guess if you just have like a ton of different card types and you have like self mill, then this gets better. But I don't know. I don't like Tarmogoyf was never really like a broken card and like limited. Like it's like, oh, it's like a 2 mana 3/4 or 4. I mean, I guess maybe in relative to like other cards at the time, but I feel like nowadays like Tarmogoyf. Well, Tarmogoyf is different because it also counts the opponent's cards. Alright, so quest for the Necropolis Black Enchantment Landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, put a quest counter on Quest for Necropolis, and then 5 generic in the black. Sacrifice Quest for Necropolis. Put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield. This ability costs 1 generic less to activate for each quest counter on Quest for Necropolis. Activate only the source. Um, I mean, this is basically like Zombify with like a few extra steps. Like you hopefully play it early, and then you get to like animate your thing for like 4 or maybe 3, like depending on how many landfall triggers you've had. So it's not super exciting. It does again. It plays well with the cycling cards if you can play this early. And the landscapes trigger this twice, which helps because it 2 land triggers. I don't. I had like a C, I guess. It might be more. And the reason I had it like a C is because I remember like not zombify, but defossilize was like good in LCI. Refurbished familiar, 3 generic and a black. Artifact creature zombie rat. Affinity for artifacts, flying. When refurbished familiar enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card. For each opponent who can't, you draw a card. So it's basically burglar rat, except it gained a power and a flying. It technically costs like 2 more, but like affinity for artifact, it should probably be costing about the same. You built your deck correctly, and because the fact that you always get a card, like even if they don't have anything, you can get to draw a card. So I mean, it's like better because of that. You'll probably be pretty happy about this in Affinity deck. You probably just don't want to play it outside of Affinity, or you're like less excited about it outside of Affinity. So I put it as like a C. Alright, retrofitted transmogrant. Black, artifact creature zombie, 3 in the black. Return retrofitted transmogger from your graveyard to the battlefield tap with 2+1/+1 counters on it. It's a 1/1. Um, so this card works with a lot of different things in the set. Like it works with artifacts because it's an art, like the affinity because it's an artifact. It works with self mill because you can bring it back from the graveyard. It also works with modified because it gets counters. Like the ability, like the thing that you get is not like super exciting. It's a 3/3. It can block. I mean, it comes back into the battlefield tapped, but like when it untaps, you could block with it. I don't know. That's not super broken, I don't think. But it has like a lot of different synergies that I could put it down as like a C, but it's probably maybe close. Alright, Ripples of Undev 1 in the black enchantment. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, mill 3 cards, and then you may pay 1 generic and 3 light. If you do, put a card from among those cards in your hand. Now this card I don't think is good because you have to pay mana and life to do it. It's pre-combat main phase, so you have to wait until like your next turn before it does something. Like if you really want to enable like I guess if you're really deep on like the reanimator stuff, this gets better. This obviously plays well with like your Necrogoyf if you have it also, but I mean 3 life is kind of a steep cost. No, I mean this isn't Sylvan Library. I guess some people might say like, oh, it's Sylvan Library. It plays differently. But I don't know. I put it as a D plus, but it might be actually better. But I don't know how to rate it personally. All right, Scurrilous Sentry, 3 generic and a black creature, human, knight, rogue, menace. Whenever Scurrilous Sentry enters the battlefield or attacks, it connives. And then yeah, kind of plays like the 4 mana 2/3 flyer from I think it was like Echo Inspector or something like that from the Streets of New Capenna. It also connives when this guy connives when he attacks too, which makes him a little bit better. But it has menace instead of flying. There might be like scenarios where even if this is a 3/4, like they might just double block it and if you can. But I think I put it down to C plus, but I might lower it to like I think plus might be a little high for that card. Alright, Shilgengar, Sire of Famine, 3 in 3 generic and 2 black. Legendary creature, Elder Demon flying. Sacrifice another creature, create a blood token. Sacrifice an angel this way, create a number of blood tokens equal to toughness instead. I think there's like 3 or 4 angels in this set. Like, I'll check again. I was like checking for Kalia the Vast. Like angel, dragon, demon count. But then this one says this 3 hybrid Orzhov mana, sacrifice 6 blood tokens. Return each creature from your graveyard to the battlefield with finality count on it. Those creatures are vampires and other types. So, I had this as like an A because I think the floor is like really good, and then I guess like the dream scenario is like if you ever get like 6 blood tokens, um, like I can only imagine like you're gonna win that game. You like reanimate like 3 things with it, and they're like reasonably good creatures that you reanimate. But we'll see. I mean, you'll need to have like a decent amount of fodder, or I guess like a high toughness angel that would work. But that definitely seems like very balmy. Warren Soul Trader, 2 generic and a black. Creature, zombie, goblin, wizard. Pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature, create a treasure token. It's 3/3. I put it as a C. Like it's better than like say Treasure Dredger from like OTJ. Is you don't have to tap it to do its thing. I mean, you do have to sack creatures. Like the way I imagine this working is that you use the Soul Trader to sack a bunch of like Eldrazi spawn so that like they make color mana instead of like colorless mana. It's also has, I guess, because they're treasure tokens that are artifacts, they have synergy with like your affinity artifact stuff. But I don't know. I just had to see. And then Wither and Bloom, 1 generic and a black instant. Target creature gets -3/-3 until end turn, and then 1 generic and a black. Exile Wither and Bloom from graveyard. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Will activate only the sorcery. So I think this is actually like potentially really. I mean, like a 2 mana -3/-3 is like reasonable in of itself, and the fact that you can get a little bit of value from the graveyard exile ability is cool. It also works with like self mill. So I had it as like a C plus. It could be closer to like a B minus, depending. Like I don't know. I didn't do a Sierkiewicz check to see like how many things die to a -3/-3 in this set, but like if like the -3/-3 is really good against most of the formats, I could see bumping it up to like a B minus. Because I remember deserts do scale. Or Wormcoil Larva, 3 generic and 2 black artifact creature Pyrexian Worm, Death Touch lifelink. When Wormcoil Larva dies, create a 1/2 black Pyrexian Worm artifact creature token with Death Touch and 2/1 black Pyrexian Worm artifact creature token. Um, like it's hard without me to evaluate this because it's obviously not nearly as efficient as it's not as efficient as like Wormcoil Engine was. It does have like some synergies. It is like 3 things to like sacrifice if you have things that care about sacrificing stuff. Um I think it just depends. Like maybe if you have like a bunch of equipment, then like the 2/1 Pyrexian Worm will like do something after it's like created or after it's created, you know, like it won't be like totally pointless. Like I mean a 3/3 Death Touch lifelink is like I think the ability is good. Just I don't know. I had it rated as like a B minus, but it might be actually closer to like a B plus, depending on like what synergies you have. If you have like synergies with the card, I would put it